Okay, I'm ready.
Almost. It's
Okay.
there. All right, you're good to go now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, May 8th, 6 o'clock p.m., and I'd like to call the meeting of the Norwalk Board of Education Finance Committee meeting to order. With me tonight is Diana Carpio and Kara Nelson Bakey, and from NPS Administration, I have CFO Lunda Asmani.
And Kristen will be joining us here shortly. Forward her the link.
Okay, and Budget Director Kristen Karsmit will be joining us shortly. First item on the agenda are the minutes from November 8th, 2023 and March 13th, 2024. I'll take a motion to move the minutes.
Motion.
Okay, motion. Yep, thank you, ladies. Next for review and possible action, first item is the year-to-date financial report. Mr. Asmani, did you want to do that, or do you want to wait a minute for Kristen?
No, I'll go through this. Again, I apologize for my video. For some reason, I can't not get it to work.
No worries.
So year-to-date financials, you can see the screen, correct?
Yes.
So year-to-date, we're at about 77% of the budget. We have 2 months remaining. This is kind of consistent with where we would be. You'll see that at salaries, we've spent about 75% of the budget together with benefits and professional technical services. Other services is an area that I've been mentioning. We're at almost 90% year to date. Included in other services is out of district tuition and out of district transportation. Those have been drivers this entire budget year, but we are going to be working on getting, we've been doing transfers, and our goal is still that by the end of the year, we don't need to go to the city for special appropriation, but we're going to be watching that one closely. Supplies and materials, again, we're at 70%, but with supplies, materials, and with equipment, many of these items we pre-order ahead of time, and therefore we don't anticipate any major increases at this time. As you recall, in this budget year, the mayor was generous in working with us to balance the budget, and we did receive that 2.5 million in one-time payments for services. Many of these were supplies, equipment, and professional technical services, and so that's why you'll see that the spend in this current year is lower than where we were last year, because those expenses are accounted for in that $2.5 billion grant that we received from the city as part of this budget. But other than that, everything is consistent with where we would want to be, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just have one, and sorry if you already, oh, nope, never mind. Different row. Nope, I'm good.
Next item would be a presentation on budget transfers. Mr. Asmani, you're up again.
The transfers are on your slide, but I have Kristen on, and she'll join us and kind of walk us through the transfers. Yes, she did join.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Hello.
Good. Sorry, it's too
Thank you
sunny
for joining us.
Thanks for having me. A pretty short one today. There's one transfer. It's whittling down, and then we'll have a whole bunch of them at the year end and the last month. This is really just a cleanup in the facilities area, and it's moving 60,000 from a few different accounts to facilities to cover other deficits, and it's really just tweaking the forecasting. So moving money from a non-affiliated account, a utilities account, an electricity account, and moving it to the Affinico account and the natural gas account.
Okay. So for where it says shift funds to cover deficits in facilities, so does that mean that there are some items in facilities that may need repair or work that there wasn't funds to pay for? Or is it
Um,
just really a bookkeeping item?
Bookkeeping, mainly the Affinico is just an estimate. We needed more money in the Affinico contract. And then just the gas at Norwalk High is higher than was originally forecasted. And then some of those
Okay.
other items, on top were lower. So it's just the fine tuning, we'll get one or two of these and then we'll have, a lot at the end for balancing at year end.
Okay,
The
Does
30,000 is really left over. There was a project manager vacancy in facilities, and that's where that's coming from, because we have outsourced it for the remainder of this year.
does anyone have any other questions for Kristen?
I'm good.
So I am thinking that we need to vote on these items, or do these just need to remain as a review for the board meeting? Or should we vote on these?
No, I believe you vote on these to send
We're gonna
over
vote on
to
these,
the
right?
full committee. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So can someone make a motion to approve the year-to-date financial report and the budget transfers, please?
Motion?
Motion by Ms. Kara and second by Ms. Carpio. And so finally, an update on the FY25 budget development. Kristen, are you going to provide that to us as well?
No, I'll provide this one for you.
Okay.
So for those of you that were at, well, not for those of you, you heard this yesterday when we met with the SGCs. We're currently in the process of reconciling the budget to meet the 3%. But I did want to give you an update on just where we are with that process. One of the things that I had shared before that we really depend on in balancing the budget, health insurance is a big part of our budget. As you saw in the year-to-date financials, it's almost over $20 million item. And so we were really hopeful when we begin the budget process, we begin by preliminary insurance projections. And as we go through budget development, we get revised numbers all the way to the point where we get final numbers of what the insurance rates are going to be. In most instances, we begin with a conservative estimate, and then those numbers work down, which helps us in reconciling and balancing the budget if there is a difference between what the board request was and what the city approval was. So you'll recall that last year, we had the teachers union transition out of the state plan to a high deductible plan managed by Cigna. They are by far our largest insured group and are the biggest bucket of that health insurance expense, almost 2/3. So we did receive the rates, and I'll start with the state partnership. So everybody other than the teachers union are in the state partnership plan. And so is the city. We transitioned together, I want to say maybe six or 7 years ago. At the time of the transition, it was a cost savings to both the city and the board. So in getting the rates, when we had initially presented the budget, our preliminary numbers, I believe, were 7%, is the number that I had on this slide when I shared with you back in November or December. We have received the final numbers from them. Our health insurance on the state plan is 2%, which I believe is the lowest year-over-year increase since we joined the plan. And so that is partly because it's a larger pool and there has been some better claims experience. And therefore, we were able to reduce our initial cost of 5%, but because it's a smaller pool, that difference is not as significant. The other group of employees are on the high deductible plan, the Cigna plan. So when we began the budget process, we did not have rates yet. The contract that was entered into last year had a not to exceed amount of 15%, which is what we had put in the budget, being conservative. Our hope obviously being that as we get closer to the final number, that number would be reduced and it would allow us to divert those funds to other line items to balance the budget. Unfortunately, we did receive confirmation last week that Cigna health insurance plan increase year over year is 15%, which is the ceiling, which is quite significant because our premiums is about $20 million for that. So to get a 15% increase, although it was what we had in the budget, but it kind of took away that cushion that we were anticipating of having that reduction. So that's where we are. And as you know, each year we also have the city, the board, and the employees have a share. And this year, as part of the contract, the employees were taking on about 0.5% of the cost share. So we dropped 0.5%. So the teachers will be at 20.5%. So that would eventually mean between the 15% increase and the premium cost share, our teachers, those that are in this plan, are going to see about a 17% increase in their premium rates, whereas everybody else will see just under 2% increase. And so I want to bring this up because this may be something that you'll be hearing. We start open enrollment on Friday, and so there may be some conversation about these rates, but I thought I should bring this up at this meeting, and we may talk about it again at the full board meeting, just so that you have some context as to why the discrepancy between the increases. But we were really hoping that it wouldn't come to that 15%. It would be a lower number, both for budgetary reasons and also for the benefit of our employees who pay into this plan. So that's that. And then the second slide on this, which is my final slide, just to kind of show where we are in the reconciliation process. We obviously, the current budget is just about 226.5 million. The board had tentatively approved 8.2%. The city had approved 3%. So the work we're now involved in is basically getting from 245 to 233 million. So what we've been able to do so far is we have about $500,000 in additional carryover that we can apply to balance the budget. Initially, we had put in 2 million. Given what we're seeing year to date with the budget, we may be able to pull another $500,000 from the current year's budget. We were thinking that we would need this year, but we don't. And therefore, we have another $500,000. Obviously, we were anticipating some health insurance savings, which we're not really realizing this year. And today and the next couple of days, we're going to be reviewing our state grants to see if there is any increase. Actually, just today, the state is actually in the process of reissuing some ARPA funds that remained outstanding, hadn't been issued. I learned today, for example, that the city of Danbury will be receiving an additional $21 million going to the city. And I believe not all of that is going to go to the Board of Ed, but there is conversation that is an avenue that the city could use towards balancing the Board of Ed needs. So I'm following up with our counterparts on the city side to see if there's any additional ARPA money that's going to be coming to the city of Norwalk. And if there is, how much of that could help offset the Board of Ed budget together with the city budget. But that's kind of where we are with the budget process. We'll be coming to you May 21st, I believe, is your next board meeting, and we will have more complete numbers, and we will present a plan on how we reconcile our budget to the 233 million. But I did want to give you an update on that tonight, just so that you have that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Well, first of all, it seems like there were essentially no cost savings then with switching over to that health insurance, right? Or anything that was realized is now gone, right?
So last year when we transitioned, I believe we had estimated just about $4 million in savings last year. This year, the difference between being on the plan and being out of the plan is about 2.2 million. So of that $4 million we saved last year, 2 million of that is basically taken care of this year. So we're still ahead by about 2 million, but if these rates continue next year, then we would have wiped out any savings in a 2-year period, but would have left with, high deductible premiums for for the employees. And therefore, we're hopeful that next year we don't see a 15% increase. But that's kind of where we are. But to your point, yes, the savings last year did not continue into year two.
It's like a high-end bait and switch.
Yeah, it's very
Anyway,
Yes.
unsettling.
and you know, instead of hitting you on the front end, they're getting you on the back end. You know, when you get a new product and they tell you,
Yeah.
okay, there's no
Right.
there's no cost, or there's low cost, and then
Right.
you know, when you go to re-up it, you're hit with all of these big numbers. So anyway,
I mean, I know
does,
that, sorry, Sherry, and
no, go ahead.
I just, this health insurance thing is definitely alarming. And last night at that meeting, I could sense response from some of the staff in the room who
Yeah.
it seemed to me were not aware of this. So do we know if this has like been communicated yet? I think you said that there's a meeting next week or some communication going out next week around this. But I don't know, you know, that is a big number for any person to have to absorb. Do we know if there's any room for that to be negotiated by the union? Like back
So we'll
down
have
below
to.
the 15%?
So we actually tried to negotiate with Cigna, because we have health insurance consultant who we worked with initially, and it actually took us a while for them to give us the final rate, because they were waiting on claims experience, because our teachers joined this plan in September, and so there wasn't a lot of history for them to give us the rates. But when we did get the 15% rate, before we accepted the rate, we actually had our consultant had a conversation with their underwriters. We kind of argued back and forth. We asked to see their claims and, you know, how would they justify that? But our efforts were unsuccessful. But I did communicate today with the teachers union president what the rates were going to be. They had asked for those rates, so we provided them the rates. We provided the union leadership the rates today. But on Friday, we will be starting our open enrollment process, where all employees, those on the Cigna plan and on the state plan, will all receive those rates for those individuals, whether it's individual plus one, and family rates. Those will go out to employees on Friday. But those rates have already been shared with the teachers union president this morning.
Okay, so they know. My goodness. Well, are there any other comments, questions, or concerns from anyone on the call?
No.
Thank you, Linda and Kristen. If there isn't anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee meeting.
Motion?
Motion by Ms. Kara. Miss Diana, did you make a second?
Yep. Second.
Okay. All right, everybody. So this meeting is adjourned at 6:19 on May 8th. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Have a good